We need reparations, we need vacations, we need blue strips for all the time we spent waiting. We gon' kill for what we owe, Joe, we not playing. Mr. President, I think it's time we get paid. I watched all of my people die. Why your people try to act like we commit crime? Get killed on TV, got our kids scared to go outside. It's time you pick a side. Before we turn this bitch up, Mr. President, better fall in line. Yeah, we don't need loans, we need what we owe. We need police to stop killing sisters inside their home. And when it happened and we burn this bitch down, they need to stop telling us we was wrong. Ay, and we need unity. We need the government to stop bringing drugs in our community. They better stop playing, we not the ones. You got guns and we got guns. Who kill if you play with our funds? Yeah, how we supposed to restore when they won't give us more? When they got knees on our necks when we walk out the store? How we heal when they go to the park, kill a 12-year-old boy for killing, we ready for war. Yeah, and we need reparations, we need vacations, we need blue strips for all the time we spent waiting. We gon' kill for what we owe, Joe, we not playing. Mr. President, I think it's time we get paid.
Peace, peace. Greetings to you all. It's your brother Naheem, BKA Lord Abbott, aka Mr. Just the Fact. What's going on? I see the fam up in the building. BTP Riri, what's good? Reg Rock, member of the channel. What's going on? Judicially affirmed. What it do? Shout out to the Freedman family. BTP Shanna is on deck. What's going on, sis? Shanna said, "Are you streaming on Twitter?" I'm trying to, but I'm having some sort of an issue. I may have to refresh my page. So y'all bear with me for just 1 second. Just bear with me. All right, I'm having issues connecting my stream to Twitter for whatever reason. And y'all know that's where we get the bulk of our views from. As we try to build up our Facebook, our YouTube channel, excuse me. Let's see. All right, so I don't know. I'm having some issues. And I don't think I'll be able to. I actually don't think I'll be able to stream to Twitter right now. Nope. Hopefully during the course of the live stream, I'll be able to stream to Twitter. What's going on, fam? We have a debate tonight. And we want to make sure that Be the Power does its part in streaming this important debate. DJ FaZe, what's going on, bro? The legendary DJ FaZe is in the building. You got a brother in the chat saying that they still want to donate to the cause, brother FaZe. So make sure you get up with that brother Reg Rock. Yeah, Sister Shanna. Twitter is about to get a lot of traffic, and the fact that I can't log on right now to Twitter, that's not good. It's not letting me stream to Twitter. I don't know what's going on, why, or what's happening. But anyway, family, make sure y'all hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Share the video out. Even if you're going to or come across this video, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. And make sure you hit that little bell icon next to the subscribe button so that you can become a part of the notification nation and be informed every time Be the Power drops its dynamic content. And we we trying to grow this platform. We've been trying for a minute, although we switched from our other YouTube channel, which has over 10,000 subscribers on it, to this one. We wanted to take our streaming in a new direction as we shifted and reorganized some things, But yeah, it could be a traffic jam, Sister Shanna. I'm trying. I'm gonna keep trying during the course of the night and see if I'm able to go live. But that's not good. That's not good. We need to be up in this little corner right now. Everybody else live streaming. Everybody else live streaming the debate. This dude Mario Nafal got 91,000 live. C-SPAN has 5.1 thousand. And these are just the people that I can see. Sister Sabby Sabs has 906. Sister Dana has 116 streaming on their Twitter platforms right now. We I don't know. I guess it's just going to be YouTube tonight. It's going to be YouTube tonight. Yes, I definitely need to post on the Facebook page as well. So y'all bear with me while we get our stuff in order over here. That's why I started early. I'm trying to work out a new format, so I'm waiting for the bros to come on, make sure my little background and everything that's done is done right. I actually want to try to call feature tonight as well. So I may ask a few of y'all to have my phone number to hit me up in a little while. See if I could get this thing going. Reorganizing some things. So what's going on, family? What is going on? What's going on, man? I'm glad Brother FaZe is in the building, because I mentioned the brother the other day, and I was breaking down politics, and I was breaking down how politics is. I watched the Culture channel, the Michael Wayne TV channel, and there was a brother on there, old school brother, and he was kind of upset about the beef that FaZe was having with Brother Charlie Rock. And I watched that video, and he was talking about Disco King Mario and the difference between Disco King Mario and Cool Herc. One of the things that he said was when Herc looked out the door and seen all them little wild dudes, Herc was like, nah, don't let them in here. But when Mario looked out that door and seen them little wild dudes, Mario was like, nah, let them through. Let them come up in here. Let them in. And that started something. And I was equating that to what needs to happen with us politically. That's something that needs to happen with us politically. I don't think that people are looking at the hood as the untapped oil reserve, if you will, that it is. And it's so funny because we're trying to set up an interview with some people from Chicago, and being that we have history with, obviously, one of the co-founders of Be the Power, Brother Logic, is from Chicago, and we were in the Moorish movement. So we know about Honorable Daniel Jackson, who Noble Drew Ali called his leader in politics back in the early 1900s. Even though he was a leader of the organization, he was a leader of the Moorish Science Temple of America, he called Daniel M. Jackson the leader. Daniel Jackson, he was from straight from the streets. Salute more Matthew Hampton L. I see you in the building. That brother was from the streets, man. And he was appointed head of the Republican Party out there in Chicago, right? And when we get the Chicago family on, I want to talk about the brother Gator Bradley. I want to get into some of the Chicago politics, because I want to draw a juxtaposition between Chicago politics in some senses and New York politics before we really start to get pushed out of it. I can't wait to get into that conversation with the people for it says we trying to get that sister on. We're trying to get that sister on, the sister Jessica Jackson, that be going up in them city council meetings and cooking the mayors and the everybody, the whole city of Chicago, damn near. And I have my issues with certain things that happen with Chicago, and I'm not going to get into some of that. I'm not going to get into that at the moment, but what I will say is about the people that's outside of the movement that they helped promote people or help elect one brother in Desmond Yancey that's in lockstep with that mayor out there. That's pretty much making sure those illegals get everything that those illegals need. So, there's some unresolved issues in this movement, and that's a fact. And that's one of them. That's one of them. People thought that they were hurting us by helping Desmond Yancey, a cookie cutter Democrat who had no reparations on his political platform at all, get into office. And I know every last one of the players that did that. And what they ultimately did was what the Democrats are doing right now, basically saying, man, screw you, American freedmen. Screw y'all. And I'm not talking about some ideology online. I'm talking about our people. What we want to make sure that somebody other than this white man get into office. And they went out of their way to do that because really it was a shot at us. They wanted to say that they defeated us in doing a thing. But now look, that man Yancey is voting with that mayor out there. That's what I'll call him, just like New York. I call him that mayor out there. And all of that illegal immigration, there's nobody there that's sitting in any council seat that at least that I know of, and there's probably people who can break it down better than I can, that are challenging the mayor, that are ensuring that that mayor puts the proper resources into the American freedmen institutions, programs, et cetera, et cetera. How do you think Chicago gets the way that it gets? Let me pull up this article real quick, because I don't think, especially the so-called or wannabe white supremacists, I don't think they understand how Chicago becomes Chicago. And if you've read which book highlights? No, it's not a book. The article that Ta-Nehisi Coates put out in The Atlantic called The Case for Reparations. You've not read that, then you won't understand why Chicago is Chicago today. I know there's some people on Twitter spaces that like to romanticize Chicago in a certain type of way, and we've had our debates, but the reality is the reality. So I want to read this real quick while we're on. We're waiting for the debate. Make sure y'all click like, share the video out. I'm not able to go live on Twitter at the moment, so I don't know if at any point during this live I will be able to go live on Twitter. And that's basically where our numbers are right now. And our numbers are on Twitter. So let me see. All right, I'm trying this new format out, y'all, so bear with me. Let's see. Okay, there we go. There we go. All right, so let's get into this. New report. Why is that there? New report reveals Black homeowners in Chicago lost billions due to predatory housing contracts. Many people in the Black community once used home ownership as a means of building wealth. But a report published on Thursday reveals that Black Chicagoans who purchased homes between 1950 and 1970 never had a chance of making money because of predatory housing practices. The report, called The Plunder of Black Wealth in Chicago, New Findings on the Lasting Toll of Predatory Housing Contracts, conducted by researchers from various universities, reveals that more than 75% of Black home buyers in Chicago who bought their homes through home sale contracts during this era lost between $3.2 billion and $4 billion of wealth due to racist real estate policies and predatory contracts, according to the Chicago Sun-Times. These buyers, unfortunately, permitted the seller to hold the deed of their home until the buyers could pay off the full amount. Buyers were paying off at least $71,000 more on their home than a conventional mortgage. That's basically code for than what white people was paying for their mortgages. $71,000. They taxed the poorer among us and gave the richer among us breaks. And we wonder why, for those that don't understand, there's a wealth gap between American freedmen and the European in this country, whom we call white. It says this process prevented the buyer from accumulating equity and gave the owners all the power, since they still had the right to evict the buyer if they missed the payment. This is the first piece of research that shows exactly how much money was taken from the Black community during that time. These contracts offered Black buyers the illusion of a mortgage without the protections of a mortgage, according to a report published by Duke University Samuel Du Bois Cook Center on Social Equality. Shout out to the good doctor, good Dr. Darity. Shout out to the good doctor. Shout out to the good doctor. During that time span, 60,100 homes were bought by Black Chicagoans, and each of those homes were found to be marked up by 84%. Normally in Chicago, normally homes in Chicago purchased by a speculator for $12,000 would be resold days or weeks later on contract to a Black buyer for $22,000, the report said. This process was usually the only way Black people could afford homes or could buy homes after the post-war boom, since most of us were prevented from purchasing a home through a process called redlining. These contracts were usually made through the very banks that turned down Black home buyers who approached them for conventional loans, the report says. So, I mean, this was really, really dirty work. You go to get a home for a loan and you can't get it. But the white racists who modified these loans and added an extra 10, 12, all the way up to $17,000 to these loans, they were able to get the loans and then sell it back to us. I mean, they just did us dirty. And that's why Chicago is the way that it is. It's just as simple as that. $4 billion of wealth that freedmen in Chicago that they could have passed down to their progeny was pretty much stolen from them. And those Europeans in Chicago, aka white folks, when we say white, we spell it W-I-G-H-T. They have been living high off the hog ever since. It ends by saying the impact of the disparities of Black home ownership are still relevant today compared to the 74% of white families who own homes in Chicago today. Only 39% of Black families can say the same, according to an analysis by the Urban Institute released last year. So, this is some of why Chicago is the way that it is. This is why. Brother Ibrahim said he'll be on in a few. And, there's a Color of Wealth report as well. Let me see. Will Twitter let me go live yet? Nope. Let me see if I can pull up the Chicago Color of Wealth report. See if I can pull that up. All right, well, I'm not able to pull the link up. But what I'll do is I'll read what the AI has generated. The Color of Wealth in Chicago report, conducted by the Institute on Race, Power, and Political Economy at the New School, found significant economic disparities between Chicago's racial and ethnic groups. White families had the highest median net worth at $210,000, while black families reported no wealth. No wealth. US born Mexican families had a median net worth of $40,500. Foreign born Mexican families had $6,000, and Puerto Rican families had $24,000. White families, home ownership, were more than twice as likely to own homes as black families. There's the link right there. Home equity. Mexican and Puerto Rican participants had home ownership rates between 50 and 60%, but their home equity values were lower than their white participants. And that's obvious because the white participants would have been there longer and they would have had the homes longer, especially the ones that they jerked us out of back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, probably right on up until today. Debt. Black, Mexican, and Puerto Rican households have more student and medical debt. I mean, we don't care about what Mexicans and Puerto Ricans have. They are, as Bloomberg noted in the report that they did 2 years ago, especially Mexicans, quote unquote, rising up the ladder. So let me see if I can pull up the actual link to this report. The color of wealth in Chicago study reveals wide gap in black, Latino, and I don't like when they do that. I feel that they should just focus on us. They just need to focus on us. But here we see Derek Hamilton in front of a chart that shows net worth, assets, and debts. Let me see if I can blow that up some. And you see the black category, aka the freedmen. And pretty much as the report that the AI generated from this report showed, our wealth is negligible. It's at zero, pretty much. White wealth, it's at where it's supposed to be. Puerto Ricans and Mexicans who are foreign born have more wealth than those of us in Chicago. Those American freedmen in the city of Chicago. I mean, this is bad work, man. This is bad work, man. Let me see what's going on in the chat. Brother Brian Johnson said a demonic cycle to keep us from any substantial uplift. That's a fact. Andre, my brother Dre is saying he can't watch. I can't watch it. Kamala triggers me. Yeah, I feel you, bro. Once you recognize who these people are for what they are, then it's just like Obama. I can't stand to watch the dude. I thought Michelle Obama gave a great speech at the DNC. Whether I disagree with her direction, political ideology, I thought the speech was great. When Barack Obama spoke, I felt like I felt like I was in a recession all over again, right? Because that's what happened under Barack Obama, and he did nothing to help us while he helped banks and other financial institutions that caused the crisis. These are the people that actually caused the crisis. He helped them, and they have been doing good ever since. They have been doing good ever since. He said, "Word same for me." And Obama's speech was a straight up slap in the freedman face. That's a fact. That's a fact. So we're waiting for this debate to start. And let me see. I haven't even pulled it up yet. Let's pull up the debate link and get ready. And I want to say this. I'm not gonna sleep on Kamala Harris. One of the things you learn in the hood, you don't sleep on anybody. You don't sleep. I've seen some little dudes wash big dudes up, and females. We fighters in the hood. The women could fight. The women could fight. And now I've seen some little chicks wash some big chicks up so you learn early, don't sleep on nobody. So I'm not gonna sleep on Kamala Harris. I don't know if she's going to have a good debate performance or not. All right, we know that she can't give an interview worth a damn. When you press her on certain issues, she crumbles. The fact that this first interview is on ABC, we're gonna expect that ABC is gonna bring and give softball questions, mainly to make Kamala look good and Trump look bad. And we can safely say that due to the fact that you have ABC talking heads going out. And peace, Sister Constance. Brother Brian said, I anticipate this as being one hell of a debate, and it might be. It might be. And if Kamala gives a bad debate performance, I'm not sure we can judge anything necessarily off of a debate performance, but I think that because she bombed so bad in the CNN interview with Tampon Tim, as they call him, that yeah, Sister Shannon, ABC, Disney Corp, all Democratic controlled. That's a fact. I mean, the NABJ, that sister that questioned Trump, she was from ABC. Trump called her out. Very, very nasty. Biased. The funny part about all of this too is like some of my peoples, they really think like I'm just a Trump supporter. I was talking to my grandmother last week, and she was like, Sean, she called me Sean. She was like, Sean, what do you see in Donald Trump that would make you vote for him? I was like, Grandma, what makes you think that my grandmother, 88 years old, still got all her faculties? I said, Grandma, what makes you think that I'm going to vote for Trump? I was like, I never said I was going to vote for Trump at all. I'm not a Trump supporter. I said, but I'm against Kamala Harris, and I'm not going to support or vote for Kamala Harris. So that one thing doesn't make me the other thing. And if you see my debate with Jabari on Sanetta's channel, that was one of the things that he tried to do. He called me MAGA and got offended when I called him a liberal, while he agrees with all of the Democrats' liberal policy. So it was really, really, it was really crazy, man. It's really crazy. But let me try X again. Nope. Yeah, we won't be streaming on X tonight. Share the video out for me, y'all. Make sure we try to get some traction on the video. And we're gonna wait for this debate to pop off. And let's see. I'm trying to work this new format. You out there with me.
Have, and that will be used to do things that will be great for our country, including to invest.
I don't think this is the debate.
And wisely invest and build it up bigger and stronger and better than any place on earth. We will build extraordinary national.
Let me stop streaming. I don't know what that channel is. I was trying to find the Associated Press. Let me see. Because the last time I didn't get no strikes. But it is what it is. I guess I'll click on it. I mean, I didn't get a strike the last time either. So hopefully. Okay, it's about to start. It's on. Hold on. They shook hands.
Let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid. And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to startup small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump is in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because it was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan. And it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response. And you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions, very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came
Well,
to
I
your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, 2 things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. in all fairness. J.D., and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. So wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer the question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question, would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
The people
I'm
on
taking
television
it from the city
saying
manager.
their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire them. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier. So let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris,
FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're
President Trump-
fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people.
Vice President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president,
We gotta
This is the
continue
one
here.
that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a
President
fake
Trump,
Russia investigation
We do have a lot to
that
get.
went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to talking of a friend when I was in high school who was assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on longstanding work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down. And name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well,
response?
first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead. Fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out of. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400,
President
500
Trump.
acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that
for
we
the
have to get
environment,
to.
as
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, well, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are
you.
those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the president of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, The former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The president of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Right. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I said that sarcastically. You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them Republican.
No judge looked at it.
And said
they said we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter, because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by whiskers. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States. And world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart, Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I
up.
think we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed, children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and an equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation. And now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on national security, including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Oh, right there. While they're taking the debate, man.
The ABC News presidential debate will
And-
continue
and-
after this.
Oh, not pause, but let me mute out the audio from ABC. That's funny. That, geez, to end, or I thought Kamala hit him on that Putin part and what he said about Ukraine, because he did say that. Everything that she said, that he said about Putin, she did say that, but then he just came right back and said, Putin endorsed her last week. That was hilarious. Ibrahim, what's your thoughts so far, bro, before we get back to the stream?
Her body language is telling me she's kind of nervous. I think she'll calm down maybe after they come back from break. So the questions that I heard was them challenging Trump on the words that he used. I don't know if they're going to do the same thing with Kamala and a lot of the issues that she has brought up and pivoted on or flip-flopped on, and things that she said that's just not true. Like defund the police, I thought they were going to stick there, but they kind of moved on about it. So they asked him, questions about things he said regarding January 6th, and then he answered, and then they followed up with it again. When they went to her, I thought they were going to ask her maybe about her stance on defund the police, and then how at the DNC convention that they said they're giving the police the most money that they have, and now crime is down, but they didn't. So right now it looks like, and this is Kamala's home court, right? She's on ABC. ABC is a DNC leaning network. So like she's getting favor. I think in order for her to win, she's going to have to stop saying what Trump did and what she will actually do. It's okay to say some of the negligence that Trump did when not only he was president, but after his presidency as well. But then she's going to have to say what a Harris campaign looks like and how that differs from a Harris Biden campaign. There was a New York Times article that was written, and people want to see something different. That's why she got the initial bump, because she came in as she's not Trump, she's not Biden, she's a breath of fresh air. Since the DNC convention, that has been scaled back to where, she's just Biden, right? So she's going to have to prove how she's different from Biden and what a Harris administration will look like. They keep trying to give her the alley-oop, but all she wants to do is focus on Trump. It's okay to come out and focus the first part of the question on Trump, but then you got to show us how you will differentiate from Biden. Right now it's just like, don't vote for Trump. Trump is bad. He's incompetent. Everybody else doesn't like him. That's not going to get the job done tonight.
What's your thoughts on ABC's very tilted questioning and putting all the focus on Trump? They've only pressed Kamala one time on flip-flopping. There's many things that you can press Kamala on. What's your thoughts on that?
And Trump keeps trying to bring it back up and deflect back to her. Like, hey, don't just ask me about some of the crazy thing I say. This woman says crazy stuff all the time. We kind of knew this was going to happen, right? And this may be like the first and the last debate. They wanted to do 3 debates. We got the election less than 60 days, right? So you might never get a Fox News debate. You may never get another debate. This may be it. This might be one and done. So he's just going to have to do everything he can, knowing that, he's in a debate setting that is not opportunistic for him. At the same time, I expected this. I hope ABC can get to policy and ask more neutral questions. that, you know, are directed towards both candidates. But if it continues to go this way, I mean, Trump is going to be on the ropes the whole night. The bad thing about it is we're not going to learn anything new from a Kamala Harris administration. And this may turn around and hurt her. He's, you know, being on the ropes, he's dodged
He's
something.
doing the rope. Hey, Ibrahim, he's doing the good rope-a-dope right now, you know, to be completely honest.
Yeah. He's. I didn't think he would have a strong Hamas Israel stance, but you know he did, right? And well, the thing about her hating Israel, right? That was just complete.
Right, they back on, bro. They back on, bro.
Turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president, you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this. And the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words. So I'm asking.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently over the course of his career attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was a land. He owned land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to Black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young Black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first Black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your 3rd time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said, going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5. They admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country, one who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction, to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
She
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
Thank you,
That's
Mr.
what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond
President
because
Trump,
the
President
former
Trump.
president has said
No, I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry. We're
I
gonna
just need to
move on,
respond
Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this
multiple
is
times.
now your
Yes.
3rd time running for president, you have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up, they wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice President Harris, thank
in terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot
She made
of...
a mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money, but she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get.
President
People
Trump
are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable, but we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
All right, we on the second break before they give closing arguments. I think the debate is going good. At first I was like, Kamala is going to get washed. And then I thought about it. I said, I think she's going to be able to hold her own. And I think she's holding her own. But I don't think that she's winning the debate at all. I think that Trump is hitting her on policy. I think that the ABC moderators are trying to make it this personal thing with Trump, like bringing up the Central Park Five. And what Trump is doing is redirecting it right back to the issues of policy and this economy. If you're trying to sway someone in the middle, I believe that Trump is doing that. What's your thoughts, Ibrahim? You on mute, bro.
That was a really tough question they asked Trump about Obamacare and how he tried to gut it. They really stuck it to him on that one, and he didn't give a satisfactory answer. He just said, "Hey, I'm working on it, right?" And if you look at Agenda 47, it's not in his plans to repeal or to replace it. But then, after they followed up with another tough question. They didn't let him wiggle out of that. And that's when he finally said, I don't have anything right now. We're working on it. We got some ideas, but I'm not president right now, right? They really stuck it to him on that one. I guess they called themselves asking VP Harris a tough question when they asked her about the supporting Bernie Sanders and the Green New Deal and how she kind of flopped on that one. But if you notice how they presented it to her, it was real soft, right? And then she talked about, hold up, I don't want to answer it right now. Let me get to what Trump did. She has to stop doing that, right? Just let the focus be on you for one question, Kamala. But anyway, when she did get to it, she talked about building factories. And if you ever been to these big factories and all the waste that comes out of it, there's really no way to build these massive factories that produces a lot of waste and have it be productive to the environment. So, she definitely didn't score one on that one, even though I thought it was very easy how they asked her a controversial question. One thing Trump lost points on, he said, yeah, we had some bad people, but we had a lot of good people. She had some bad people too. Trump. Your bad people went to prison. Right? You can't equate the two. Your bad people went to prison. You had a lot of people like the Pooch that went to prison, right? And then a lot of people just quit. That Biden-Harris campaign doesn't have a lot of people that resigned, and they definitely don't have nobody who went to prison. You had a whole starting five that went to prison. The Afghanistan question, that was a tough one. She doesn't want to distance herself from Biden, but she doesn't want to be up under Biden's shadow. At some point, she's going to have to, give him some nudges and say, "Hey, he was wrong on this." You can't be in full support of this administration while saying a a Harris Watts administration is going to be so much different. Do you support Biden and what he's did or not? Right? And you should put the knife in him, right? He's out of there anyway. He's senile. Go ahead and put the knife in him. If she would have did that, I think she would have scored some points, but she didn't. Afghanistan was disastrous, the whole thing, right? You can't go back to what Trump did with the Taliban. No, the Afghanistan was horrible. Another thing that Trump is doing that I didn't think he was going to do is his honeymoon with Putin is over with, or at least it's sounding over with. He's bringing up some hard topics when it's coming to Putin. And he's saying, no, Putin was wrong on this. I wouldn't have supported that. I would have ended this, right? That's normally what we did not see during Trump's presidency. He was real soft when it came to Putin. It was kind of like a bromance. Another thing I picked up on was Kamala Harris' senatorial record. As a junior senator, Kamala Harris did not author one bill that got passed, right? She worked on a lot of bills that got a lot of media publicity, but not one of those bills passed.
Indeed. All right. We're about to go back to the closing statements, and then we're going to
back tonight. The time has come for closing statements, and Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military, and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
Okay. The debate is over with. And, it was a good debate. I will say that ABC was horrible. I mean, I want to start there, Ibrahim. I want to start with ABC, and they pressed Kamala Harris one time. Everything else was about Trump. And even when she was asked about her blackness, and we can get to that maybe a little later, she still sidestepped that question the way she always sidesteps it. She could have simply stood there and said, I'm a black woman. I've been black my whole life, but she's not that. And that's why she can't answer that question. And she knows that talking point is something that hurts her, because if she would have stood on being, what is she, an East Asian or South Asian?
I think she's
South Indian woman. Then
South Indian.
Maybe you would get more respect than because we're no fans of Kamala Harris on this channel, right? And we're no fans of Donald Trump either. We're no fan of any of these politicians. But because we see Kamala as a Obama 2.0, we have to focus in on her because the party that she is representing is the one that our people vote for. So I want to start because I've taken notes and I've wanted to touch on some of these things, and obviously we won't be able to flesh all of this stuff out tonight in this discussion and debate analysis. But I kind of want to go back to the top, but I want you to give your analysis and your breakdowns. All right, we got Josh in the building on exactly what you thought and how this, how the debate played out, and if you thought that Kamala won, et cetera, et cetera.
I didn't think it was a good
Or
debate.
did Trump win, right?
I did.
Matter of fact, let's start there. Who do you think won the debate, and then get into your analysis?
I have to give a slight edge to Trump because he was fighting too, right? You ever been to a fight and you see somebody get jumped, but they never go down? They might be lumped up, but you get a win to them. Trump was getting double teamed. He was fighting 2-on-1 all night. But I didn't think it was a good debate because I didn't think it was a substantive debate. And I'm not taking a point away from either candidate. That's the job of the moderator. That's the job of ABC. ABC should have stuck to the policy. They didn't. I don't know why you want to, like, everybody knows Trump is a enigmatic figure, right? He really like carries the light of the whole Republican Party. And I don't think the Republican Party like it, but I think MAGA is here to stay, right? I think they want to move past Trump, whether he wins or loses, but I think he's made such an impact on the Republican Party that MAGA is going to be here to stay. And you'll get younger people that come up and kind of have Trump's ideologies and philosophies, which is just do you and be all over the place. But like, you got to stick to the agenda. Trump has Agenda 47 out. Kamala Harris put out an agenda on Monday. It was all over the internet. It's very ambiguous and very broad, and she didn't get into the specifics of it. And I wish that the moderators would have fleshed that out. If you notice, she talked about first-time home buyers and not first-generational home owners, right? So, like, we need to know. We need to pin her down on that. Kamala, is it first-time home buyers or is it first-generational home buyers, right? We see this ABC did a very terrible job. They did a terrible job. This kind of reminds me of Trump at NABJ. And if Kamala would have showed up, she would have been a home field advantage. And you got people like Roland Martin that wanted to ask Trump leading questions that put his back against the wall. Where you ever had somebody ask you a question that there was no correct way to answer, so you just didn't answer it at all? Like one of those questions that end with "Are you stupid or are you dumb?" Right? You ABC has to do a much better job. The problem is that we have inflation going on. You got a war in Europe. You got a war in the Middle East. The job report that Biden-Harris administration put out about 2-3 weeks ago was inflated by 1/3. You got Kamala saying she's going to overturn what the Supreme Court did with Roe v. Wade, reinstall that, and then codify it in the law. Like, we need to know the steps to getting these things done. You got Trump that's saying he's going to close off the border, right? He's going to stop the war in Ukraine, Russia. He's going to be able to get some, he didn't even speak on how he was going to end things in Palestine. And those are the follow-up questions that I needed to know when they brought this stuff up. Those are the leading questions that we needed to hear. So I think Trump won because he was on the ropes, but he never slipped except on the one issue about him replacing Obamacare, where they asked him a tough question, then they came with the follow-up tough question. They finally said it. Basically, he said, "I don't have no plan. Right? I'm not president. I don't have no plan. I have some ideas." That was definitely a lost point for him. But other than that, he didn't slip. Right? He was very elusive. And then on things that he wanted to answer, he got answered, and he kept pivoting back to what's going on in the border. But I would have liked for them to like flesh out more of what he's trying to get done. What's important to a Trump campaign in 2024, right? What would a Trump administration do on day one? What type of executive orders do you think you'll pass? Same for Kamala Harris. How does a Kamala Harris administration differ from a Biden-Harris administration? What type of executive orders would you pass? And I would have liked them to kind of hold Kamala's feet to the fire about immigration, because we know her rhetoric over the last, at least, since she's been a junior senator and ran for president and a part of the Biden administration, was their policy on open borders and pathway to citizenship. And now that she pivots to, we need a stronger border, like we need to know, like, what's your plan, right? What are you going to do different than what Biden is doing now? And did you just take this position because you were showing unity and supporting the president? None of these questions was asked. Matter of fact, they're asking questions: are you black? Trump said you wasn't black, right?
I thought his response to that question was perfect. I don't care if she chooses to be black, if she chooses to be Indian. It doesn't matter to me. She can be whatever she claims to be. I'm basically my focus is on the economy, and he did the same thing when they brought up the Central Park 5. He brought it back to today. He said they got to go back 40 years to something.
And he brought in Bloomberg, and that's one of the things that we were talking about. Duncan, I think it was Mayor Duncan, was it something like that? But all of those people over the New York Times, the New York Times editor, the mayor of New York City at the time, Feinstein, like these are all Democrats, and Trump at the time was a Democrat, so you really can't make it a party thing, right?
That's right.
And I think he did make a good point. I don't know if this is true or not. We'll get the fact checks tomorrow, but he said it was after they're convicted. From my knowledge, it wasn't after they're convicted. It was during the trial. Yeah. So I think we'll get the fact check on that one, and that'll be another lie. But yeah, it's just ABC has to do a much better job. This was really, you rob the public, right? Whether you plan on voting, whether you've already made up your mind, or whether you're going to sit this one out, or whether you was trying to be inspired to see if you will go and vote. They kind of robbed us. They robbed us tonight on the policy. And Kamala has been so elusive when it comes to being in front of the reporters and asking tough questions, right? We really needed this time for her to get drilled on some things. And they could have did that in a non-contentious way, right? They didn't have to do it the same way they approached Trump, but they could have just, asked her the question. She's a presidential candidate. The bad thing about this is, if you listen to people from like the DNC supporters and the DNC shield, right, especially the celebrity shield, what they'll say is because she's black and because she's a woman, she's going to get scrutinized like no other presidential candidate has been before. That's their whole rhetoric, right? Like they're going to put her under a microscope, and you're going to see her get examined like no other president has before because she's a black woman. What we're actually saying is she's being coddled. She's being coddled by her own party, right? And they're not even putting her out there. So, you have this narrative that, I guess they're protecting her in a sense, right? You got to understand, this is the most coveted, this is the highest position in not just all of America, but in the world, right? You're going for this job. Anybody that goes for this job is going to get scrutinized like they've never got scrutinized before. They're going to lift over every rock and turn every leaf. So the idea that she should be protected because she's a black woman, that does speak to what the Republicans say, that if you're a DEI, then you can get this position without earning it. I don't believe that's right, but that is what I'm seeing with Kamala Harris right now. Like, no, you got to hold her feet to the fire and put her out there and make her answer the tough questions.
That's right. Let's go to Josh. Josh, who did you think won the debate tonight? And, what were your overall thoughts?
At different parts of the debate, I had Trump winning, I had Kamala winning. But I think Trump won the debate But I think Kamala, you know how you say, well, you can win the battle but lose the war. I think Trump won the battle but lost. It's Kamala did something that could cause him to lose the war. Like if you want to say that, you know, the debate can really shape or impact how people see the voter turnout or whatever, how the election turns out. But I think I was surprised at how well she was able to keep up with Trump, how well she was able to maneuver in some of the tactics that she did. Like one of the tactics that I saw that she employed was to bait Trump to put him on the defensive and to bait him on into gloating and talking about himself, because she knew that he wouldn't be able to resist that. And what that did was that got Trump to use up his time on the mic on everything else except for drilling them on their horrible border policies. And it allowed him, and she did that at specific times, right? She did it specifically. She used that tactic when they were talking about the issue of immigration, because then there will be no time to talk about like the issue that they had the worst record on, that most people were the most pissed off about, and that they really didn't have any answers for. So they didn't really have to sit there and be grilled and have to account for the damage that they've done through immigration like they should have. So that to me was like him not holding their feet to the fire and like skewering them on the immigration, going through the details like he could have. It opened up something, and allowed them to. When I say them, I'm talking about Democrats, to be seen in a different light than they deserve to be seen in.
So, but my thoughts obviously is that number one, I thought, and I said this earlier, you know, I don't sleep on nobody in the fight. And initially I thought Kamala was going to get washed because she doesn't want to give an interview, because we seen what happened with the CNN interview. I thought it was disastrous. I thought it was, and I knew that it was going to be the thing that sapped her momentum. But, well, not, I don't want to say sapped her momentum. That's the wrong term, but slowed the momentum that she was building up until that point. But I thought she lost the debate. I thought Trump won the debate. And the reason why was because Trump had to debate her and ABC, the ABC moderators. And I thought that he did a good job at doing that. When she started reaching for Project 2025, he's going to implement Project 2025. He again distanced himself from Project 2025, said he's never read it. He doesn't even know what's in it. Maybe some good things, maybe not good things, right? And for everybody to hear that while they were together, as opposed to hearing him say that on the campaign trail, because a lot of the right is not going to watch the left, and a lot of the left is not going to watch the right, unless it's something that's highlighted on the news. And right now, most of the media, if we're being honest, is slanted in the favor of Kamala Harris. I think slanted is an understatement, to be honest with you. It was something that she said, I can't remember, but I believe it was something based around Project 2025. And he said, that's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. It's like saying run, spot, run. And I thought that he hit her on the economy. And when she gave her pushback, he countered with, well, they just said, or she rather, has taken everything that I said and they're now running with it. I was going to send her a MAGA hat. I thought that when she kept coming off of her mic and interrupting him, I thought that that was a losing strategy. And now he gets to use that, because I would use it and say we wanted muted mics, because we know that she cannot debate without being unprofessional and interruptive, right? She kept coming off the mic. The Roe v. Wade question, to me, I thought Trump answered that question great by saying, because now you got to remember, right? And I may sound biased in my analysis, but I'm going off of the fact that these were softball questions for Kamala Harris and fastballs, 100-mile-per-hour fastballs toward Donald Trump. There really was no neutrality. And I thought that he answered the Roe v.
Pull up
Wade
statement.
Say it again.
Pull up Jerome's statement.
All right, hold on. All right, Trump did not win the debate. Do you know what Trump policies are?
Could you share my screen?
Why do they do this? Why? Hold on. Why do they do this, man? All right, let's pull that down. Yeah,
Okay.
Go ahead, bro.
So one of the things that was fact checked during the DNC convention was when one of the speakers got up and talked about Trump being the author of Project 2025 and him also supporting Project 2025. And that was fact checked and debunked the day after the convention, the day after the lady had said it. This is Kamala Harris's agenda. This is her website. Harris Watts put up agenda on Monday because they were being teased by the Republicans that they only had to donate button up. I wonder where the Republicans got that from. But anyway, and this is why it's broad, ambiguous, and unserious. If you click on some of this stuff, it doesn't say how it's going to actually get done. It's just going to say she's going to do it. I'm not going to read this, but she talks about her and Walsh in the first paragraph, and then this whole second paragraph is dedicated to President Trump. But that's not the reason why I'm bringing this up, right? If you scroll through, you have this bar right here. It says Trump's Project 2025, right? So even on her own agenda platform that we've been asking for since she's gotten the nomination, she finally put something up, but she still deflects back to telling this lie about Trump's Project 2025 agenda. You scroll down more, it pops up again, and you scroll down even more, and it's on there for a third time, right? This is unserious. This is unserious stuff, man. We asked you for an agenda. We didn't ask you what Trump was doing. We can go on Trump's website and look at Project 47. I mean Agenda 47. We can go to the Heritage Foundation and look at Project 2025.
That's right.
We don't need you to continue to traffic in that lie. This is, if Kamala, so it's my predicament right now that if you guys have been paying attention to the polls, Kamala has been like, Biden was getting washed. He was down double digits to Trump. And then the debate, you've seen what happened after the debate, you get Kamala Harris. Well, she comes in as a breath of fresh air because people are actually tired of Trump and Biden. And they said, well, this is somebody new. So she got that momentum. She rode it into the DNC convention. She was able to raise all this money, and she running around giving her stump speeches, and she got a little boost at the convention. I think people thought she was going to give an Obama 2008 speech, or she was going to give a Michelle 2024 speech. Right?
Michelle did that.
Michelle did that. Matter of fact, Obama should have spoke before Michelle. He
That's
should
a fact.
have brought Michelle out. And she didn't. She came out, she gave a stump speech. The same thing she was giving at the rallies. She talked more about Trump and not going back to a Trump presidency than she did on.
Let's stick there real quick, Ibrahim. Let's stick to not going back, because to that brother in the chat, what is his name? Jerome? Yes, Jerome. I want you to pay attention to this, Jerome, because you brought up reparations, right? That there's this thing that people on the left do because they don't know. They're not following politics. They follow the rhetoric of pundits and talking heads like a Roland Martin, etc. But they do not know on the left as Democratic voters that the Democratic Party does not support reparations. They've been saying this for the longest. The Hill published 2 articles, one in 2019, the other in 2021, stay pretty much echoing the same thing, that Democratic leadership wishes the talk of reparations goes away. What's her name? Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, was in Ghana at the slave dungeons and the door of no return. And the reporter from the Associated Press asked her straight up, basically, and I'm going to paraphrase and inject here, do you feel any emotion about this, in that the administration will now seek reparations for African Americans? And she said, no, the administration is not pursuing reparations. We believe in investing in education, as if education is going to put food on anybody's table anytime soon, like it did for Japanese Americans, like it did for various Native American tribes. So let us play what Van Jones said to this brother Jerome, so he can understand and stop making that fallacious claim that, well, the Republicans are not going to be for reparations because the Democrats are not either.
This party behind her, but she's doing something, she's fixing some problems on the left. This whole thing has been an implicit critique of problems that we've had on the left. The left before we walked in here was about justice, diversity, trigger warnings, reparations for the past, and a bunch of party poopers and scolds. That was the knock on the left. We have gone from talking about justice, which is wonderful, but now it's about freedom. It's not just about diversity, it's about patriotism. It's not just about trigger warnings. In fact, that's gone. It's tough, tough, tough. Reparations for the past? No. Fight for the future. Party poopers? No. We legalize fun. We legalize fun. We put the party back in the Democratic Party. And so this is
So we see that reparations for the past, no. That's a party pooper statement. Not just according to Van Jones. The Democrats have a track record, and we who are reparationists have been following that track record. So every time someone tries to bring up this false notion that, oh, wait, let's pull that brother's comment back up and read it. He said Trump did not win the debate. Okay. Now he comes with a totally unrelated comment. Do you know what Trump policies are with respect to Project 2025? Yes, we actually do, because he said it several times, and then he said it on the debate stage tonight. Then this brother says it will be impossible to get reparations under a Republican president. There's no guarantee under Harris. No, there's no guarantee under Harris. There's no guarantee under Biden. There's no guarantee under Clinton, Obama, etc., etc., etc. So that doesn't work with us. So Josh, what are your thoughts, brother?
Well, you also got to take it to the Democrats in California. You gotta bring it there. Where California, we're not even talking about passing reparations. Where when we talk about reparations, we talk about in the tens of trillions of dollars. How many figures is that? 6 figures is 100,000, 9 is 100 million, 12 is 100 billion. So we talking about like 14 figures. We're not talking about that. It's just California was just looking to implement a Freedmen's Office, the Office of American Freedmen Affairs, right? There was not even legislation passing to talk about funding that office with money that would be paid to reparations. So the Democrats killed that, and the call came from the top. So, and California was like pretty much all, Democrat policy is guaranteed to win in California. It's not like the U.S. Congress where it's half and half. You have to, but the power shifts every other, cycle or whatever. So
they have a super majority, I believe.
Yeah. So if the Democrats are canceling, like I gave this example many times thus far when we talked about this. If you're playing chess and you make all the moves that you're supposed to make, the right moves. You got the strategy, you do the right opening, you know how to finish, you're getting ready to check, you're close to checkmate. And then right when you get to check, the king start sliding all the way across the board, the knight start double jumping and the rook go diagonal and all this kind of stuff, right? They start cheating. And that's what happened, because the Democrats, they finally had to admit this whole thing was a scam. They never had any intention on doing. They let us go through all of this. And matter of fact, that we're willing to give you all some more money to pay to do some more studies. But what we're not going to do is we're not going to give you the policy that you actually need, that you're actually asking for. And so if that's going to be the case of California, where Democrats have a supermajority and the call is coming from on up high, right? The governor or the U.S. Congress people. We're talking about top senior Democrats, Nancy Pelosi. I'm sure echo Joe Biden and others to say, hell no, we not doing that. You better not, or else. Then why in the world will we think that it's not also not guaranteed? Forget about not guaranteed. It's no guarantee. It is impossible under Democrats in the current construction of Congress and how the voters are now. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. There's some things that we could do that could possibly influence it to happen, but we're not doing those at a fast enough rate right now. So, I mean, taking it back to more concrete things with this debate, you can't look at Republicans and say, well, you're definitely not getting reparations under Republicans. No, we're definitely not getting reparations under Democrats either. Yeah. So we might as well take that conversation off the board and talk about something else. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, don't make it emphatic on the right and then have some type of hope lingering with the Democrats. No,
the right is going to tell you hell no. The Democrats are going to tell you, okay, well, let's talk about it. Let's have a study. They don't want to tell you hell no, because you are part of their voting base, and you'll be pissed off, and you'll get what we're giving them now. Go ahead.
This reminds me of an episode on Martin. I think it was Tommy Davis Jr. that was playing the character when he was saying, hey, man, come on out to Hollywood, man. I'm going to bring you out. I'm going to show you all my stuff. I'm going to bring you on the show. We're going to, and Martin goes out there.
You like right in the pool?
At the end of the show, when Martin goes out there, he tell him like, man, that's just Hollywood talk, man. I ain't really mean that stuff. But Martin took him seriously. And when people listen, Naheem said you don't have to do politics on the left. You don't have to do politics on the left because a lot of people put their faith in the Democratic talking political figures like Don Lemon, like Roland Martin. Now you got new people that's quote unquote grassroots, right? They not grassroots. The Mysons, the Tamika Mallory's, right? You get these people, the Plies, right? Plies, as long as you're saying the right thing, they'll bring you on into the Democratic bosom. But the point being made is that people don't feel like they have to do politics on the left. Our people, I'm speaking for our people, because they do the same thing on right with rural white people as well. But on the left is that, I know these people, right? Even though we don't really know them. I trust these people, even though we should never trust these people, right? I can, reach out. I have some type of connection through these people because of their art or because of their status or because of the shows that they have. And they may have covered like a police killing against an innocent black person, and they was real hard in their rhetoric, right? So you believe like these people are on my team. No, these people work for the Democratic Party. And these people are going to say what they are paid to say. So you have to go out and do your own due diligence. You have to go out and do your own research. You have to research this stuff and know. When Kamala Harris first came out with her agenda on Monday, right, almost 2 months into her campaign, I went and I looked at it because I wanted to see if she was going to lay it out, how she was going to get this stuff done. And I said, wow, this looks like a middle school project. They just took the words that she was saying and they put it on her website. But that's good because now it's on the website, and now ABC should have followed up. The main reason why I think Trump won, right? And I'm not judging this through the American freedman lens, right? Saying like he won because he was strong on issues that impacted our community and reparations and a freedmen's bureau. No, I'm just solely basing it on face value, on the merit, on the things that they spoke of tonight. Kamala was supposed to beat him on abortions. Kamala was supposed to beat him on the abortion topic.
She lost on that topic.
She lost on abortion.
She lost on abortion.
Tried to bring up IVF. Look, you can't be advocating
on the
for
IVF
abortion.
Too.
And you tried to throw in IVFs and he caught you.
He caught her. He
tried to throw in IVFs and he was already winning because he said, we giving it back to the state. We giving it back to the people to vote. And they tried to ask him what he vetoed and he wouldn't answer that. So he was already in the lead. She tried to slip in IVF. You see, she tried to flank him. Not only do we want to have abortions, but people who almost can't have kids want to have kids. Which one is it, Democrat? Do you want to kill the baby or do you want to keep the baby? And he caught her. And
he caught her.
That was a powerful blow.
And also, when he compared this campaign promise about codifying Roe v. Wade to what they're doing with student loans, I thought that was a powerful blow in that debate. And I was like, I want to see how she's going to recover. And in a neutral or fairly moderated debate, she doesn't recover because the moderators kept putting it back on him. And then she says something to the effect of, you know, these women, these mothers are working 1 or 2 jobs and cannot afford childcare. And at Trump, and sometimes I know in the moment you may be thinking or think, because I debate all the time. So especially if you don't take notes, so you may be thinking about how you'll clap back, but you'll forget that point. But I think he would have killed her if he would have been like, well, they can't afford childcare right now and diapers and all of these things that you're promising because of the high inflation caused by your administration. So, I mean, I thought it was good, man. He said that he was a leader on in vitro fertilization. He threw that right back in her face. And, another point that I want to bring up real quick is that when Kamala spoke about Trump killing the bill, Trump made a phone call and killed the bill because he wanted to use it as a point to run on. Go back and look at our last live stream. Brother Josh read from an article. I can't remember the website, but it's a website that tracks immigration. And he read and broke that thing down. And the article's headline says something to the effect of Trump didn't kill the immigration bill. The bill itself killed the bill because the stuff that they had in that bill was absolutely crazy. And yeah, go ahead, Josh.
No, I just want to say that's why I thought that he allowed her to evade having to answer for any of the specifics. So whoever who was prepping him for this debate should have just, he just goes off and talks about whatever he wants to anyway. He pivots back to the border at, usually at many points, or he pivots back to whatever PowerPoints that he wants to make. Like he spent too much time pivoting back to fracking, which is really like, it's like, okay, donors, give me the money, don't give her the money. Like most American voters don't really care about the fracking part. You can create some other jobs in all different kind of ways. But anyway, I thought he gave her a pass when he kept taking the bait every time when she tried to to attack him and attack his, his criminal history and his convictions and all that kind of stuff. Or she'll take a jab at him, and his ego It's like, all right, I can't let that stand. I have to respond to that, as opposed to, nope, I'm not letting you get off that easy by me getting distracted with that. I'm gonna fry you and skewer you on this immigration. And he should have had his debate preppers should have had like specific egregious policies that they have at the border that he brought to light. That's one thing that I appreciate.
He brought some of them out. He definitely.
Okay. I didn't catch where he was. I mean, some of the specifics, particularly the stuff that that I was talking about, because like I think that's what most Americans need to understand and learn about, and I think he would have benefited from like exposing the difference between the policy when he was the president and the policy under them. And if he would have exposed that, I think it would have been like, oh, those type of moments that would have really shifted the because like the moderators, they asked questions and they gave like, it seemed like they gave an equal amount of time and questions to the various subjects. They should have it, but the American public doesn't work that way. Like when you're at the ballot, you don't give equal credit to all these different issues. Well, okay, well, how is it on that? What is the policy on that? What is the policy?
About fracking and immigration at the same rate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right. That's right.
yeah. So it's like it's certain things people care way more about, and everybody that, well, I didn't say everybody, but the vast majority, a lot of people care way more about what's going on with immigration than they do, like you said, fracking or something like that. They should have given way more time for them to address that issue. But if they would have done
Brought up
that,
dogs, though, Josh.
huh?
He brought up the pets being good.
Yeah. They're cooking dogs. They're cooking. Yeah.
People's
I saw it on television. Somebody ate the dog.
I was like, this dude is wild. That had me laughing hard.
You know what, though? I think that's the best you're going to get out of Trump. We know Trump to be a mudslinger. He's a backyard brawler. For him not to mudsling against Kamala Harris and just defend himself and attack when he's being attacked, I think that's the best whoever prepped him is going to get out of it. He doesn't seem to be a person that would really listen and follow direction and take strategy and all that. I think they, like, whoever prepped him should get a bonus. They did a great job. He was cool, calm, he kept his demeanor, and he did, even though he veered off a few times, he didn't like stay on that path, right? If you remember the first debate between him and Biden, it was just, it was a backyard brawl. It was a mudslinging contest. I think that's the best you get out of him. The reason he keeps bringing up the fracking is because that's one of the issues she pivoted on. So he just wants to show you, like, look at the hypocrisy of this lady. And that's probably one of the things that he remembered. ABC was supposed to bring up the rest, but they didn't. And then later on, he brings up the fact that, her stance on defund the police. I just, tonight was supposed to be about policy, though, and it wasn't. And if you read the New York Times article, more voters think Kamala is just like Biden and Trump is something new than they do vice versa. So Kamala is playing from behind. I'm not going to say she wasn't on the offense because she was attacking Trump. What she should have been doing is explaining her policy. Right?
Yeah.
You're losing points when you do that.
Well, you wait, Ibrahim, because you've already showed that the policies are empty suits in a sense. So it's like, how can you explain them? You just put them out the other day.
Well, the issue is she's been talking about them for at least 2-3 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
She knows, right? Even if like her staff don't know and it hasn't been articulated well and it hasn't been wrote out on her page into detail, she's supposed to know. Now, here's the knock on Harris as a leader. And if you read her autobiography, this has always been the knock. When anything goes wrong, she'll say, the administration knew about it, but me at the top as the DA and then me as the AG, right, it never got to me. And that's kind of how her autobiography reads. It's really like, who wrote this? Because this doesn't make you look good at all. It doesn't make you seem to be a competent leader if people up under you is just running rogue. But even now, you still see this would have been a great time to take hold of this and say, yeah, they don't know my full plan, but I know my full plan. Now, the knock on her is that she's not good at talking policy, and that's why she has Waltz. But if that's the case, then shouldn't she be the VP and Waltz be the president? Because we need somebody that can explain to the people in full confidence how they're going to correct this course that we're on, right? So it's bad. I'll say this: if she drops more than 3 points, I think we'll get another debate, because then she'll have to, be playing catch up. If things pretty much stay the same, where they're tied or she's down a point, I don't think we get another debate. I don't think she wants to go into a hostile environment, and Fox News for her would be a hostile environment. But I do think there's one thing in her favor. They keep trying to smear her as a progressive and a liberal. She's a moderate. She's a centrist, right? And I think she wins on that.
That's
trying to do that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. That's a crazy talking point.
Yeah, but she was we kind of get this thing confused as if she was in the Senate for like 2, 3, 4 terms. She was a junior senator. She got no bills passed. She has nothing. Now, she does get a lot of fanfare around the bills she proposed, one being the George Floyd Justice Act, but none of those things passed. Another thing I thought, like Trump, to me, on abortion, he got 3 points. He got a point for saying she's not going to be able to get it done. It's done. We gave it to the state and the people's going to vote on it. He got another point for the IVF. He got a 3rd point when he brought up the student loan debt erasure. I was one of those people. I owe $40,000 in student debt. And what they did was they sent out this link, and you would sign up the link, and it was real quick, right? You put your name in there, you put your date of birth in there, you put your social, and they said, good, we're going to get back to you. And then they sent out a letter that said, you qualify, we're going to take off X amount, right? And it never happened. That left a bad taste in many Americans' mouths, right? You said that you were going to give me something all the way up to the deadline, and it doesn't get done. If Kamala was smart, she would have pivoted and put that right back on the Republicans, right? You guys stood in the way of us giving this out, giving this to our, not just our constituents, but to the American people. She didn't do that. That gave Trump his 3rd point, that these people will promise you anything and they're never going to get it done. And guess what? Now when they're running again, they're going to promise you the same thing that they promised you almost 4 years ago. And guess what? When they get into the White House, they're never going to get it done. It was important for him to say, no, you go back to the White House, wake Biden up and wake all those people up and just start passing executive orders. How about you do that? You're not going to do it because you don't want to do it. You're not going to do it because you never intended to do it. There's no plan to get it done, right? As far as him getting into the weed on policy, I don't see Trump getting into the weed on policy. We know Harris is not going to get into the weed on policy. So we're just going to have to play like this poster game to see if we get another debate or not. And if we don't, I wouldn't hold my breath on Kamala Harris elaborating on the policies that she has on her page. What she will do is put more money in trying to cipher more money from the public, right? I think she'll find more creative ways to ask you to donate to the Harris Waltz campaign. And that's what you'll get from a Harris campaign. And if she's elected, I don't really know where she goes from here. Maybe she just sits on her hands for 4 years and runs Biden's playbook. And that's what people are afraid of.
So I want to say, because I didn't see many parts where she actually got Trump, but I think that she got him on the Russia and the Putin part But then Trump turned right back around and was like, yeah, Putin endorsed you last week. And she, she had to laugh at that one because it was funny. That was funny. That had me cracking up. There were let me see, and on the Taliban and Afghanistan point, I felt that that Kamala herself threw him a softball, and I thought that was horrible for her to bring up. He's been saying this on the campaign trail. I showed him a picture of his home, and I asked him. Then he asked me, "Why are you showing me a picture of my home?" Like as soon as she started talking, I said, "Trump is gonna kill her on this point." She refused to answer that black question. She bypassed it. She let it go. She had a chance to stand.
Pull up that
Yeah,
last murder.
yeah,
She had a chance to stand in front of the American people and really hammer that point home and say that I am black. I don't know what Trump is talking about. Blah 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 blah. She did the same thing in the CNN interview. Next question. It's the same old tired playbook. And people saw through that. And I believe that damaged her. And she had the opportunity tonight to hammer that home. And I know that the content creators are going to jump on that part because it is a part of concern that this woman is cosplaying as one of us to get our votes instead of telling us what you're going to do specifically for us after already saying that you would never do nothing specifically only for us, right? And I'll make sure I keep the quote in its context because people try to say you're taking it out of context. No, because we can show where she has done specifically for Israel, for instance, and other people that she's signed pieces of legislation for specifically. So definitely, which
yeah. I
The
just want to say real quick,
he said to her that Biden hates her.
all right, go ahead, Josh.
yeah, no, I was gonna say Trump missed an opportunity to jam her up with us, because he could have asked her. So look, I'm just going off what I'm seeing. Yeah, I saw you say you were Asian, and then they said you were black. So I just want to hear you say and that
Yes.
you state for the record, for not just for me, but for a lot of other people, since this is a topic of debate. Are you black? You know, or something like that. Well, what do you want? Would you want us to call you black? You want to call you Indian? What do you want us to call you?
That's right.
That's what he could have done. He can do that now, and he can do that moving forward, and make her have to answer that question, or make her have to continue to dodge the question. And so then, if she dodges it, well, don't say nothing to me. If she's not even telling you what she is, don't say nothing to me. Don't look at me if I don't know what she is. I asked her to tell me, and she didn't want to tell me. So, like, I thought that he kind of missed that opportunity for that, and I would have loved it. See, that would have been great if you had got her to get a response. But and then on some of the other ones, that's another one that I can't think of right now. So
he did that at the NABJ, and that's all that they talked about. That's all. I think he played this one perfectly. It's ABC's job to ask Kamala that, right? Now,
but they're not gonna do it. They're not gonna do it. So he got to do it. He got to be like,
they
They
did
asked Trump the
counter
question.
and
no, I'm
ask.
saying they got to ask her. They got to ask her. Kamala, are you black? Are you Indian? Which one? Or which one do you? I mean, how would you choose? How would you want people to identify? Like, people are calling you black. That's the thing, is people are saying, yes, she is black, but she's never said what she was. Like, so clear that up for us.
She has said that she's an East Asian,
Yeah,
or
she said
South Asian Indian woman,
South
and a
Asian,
woman of
and
color.
we know they have extreme colorism when it comes to that. And that was one. If you read her autobiography, that was one of the reasons why her mom stressed to them that people are going to view you as a black woman, meaning that people are going to view you as a darker skinned Indian. They know you connected to me, but they're going to view you as darker than, and you're going to get that stigma put on. And I think people kind of conflate that is they're going to view you as an African American or American freedman. It's not the same. They have extreme colorism in India. Raising somebody to be darker skinned doesn't mean you raising them as an American freedman. But I think it's funny because I think people expecting her to answer the question like she's one of us, right? When you ask a black person that, they like, I'm gonna stay black till I die, or all I gotta do is stay black and pay taxes. You know what I'm saying? She's not gonna answer it.
One of us, right? They wouldn't ask any one of us that question.
It wouldn't be a question.
That question to Kamala. Let's go to Brother Dre. What's going on, Dre?
Yo, you can hear me?
You
Yep,
good?
yep.
Yeah. So I couldn't watch that. You know how I feel about Kamala. I couldn't watch that debate. But what I did do in between when I seen that, like I had people text me, so like when they go on commercial, I would go to like different news outlets and see the different perceptions of the debate. Now, what I agree with Josh is I did watch the immigration part and he let her off the hook, especially with Chuck Schumer today talking about they're willing to shut the government down if they don't let illegal migrants vote. That's number one.
Yeah, he missed
Number
that point. He should have hit that.
yeah, number two, the fact that he did not mention that Biden signed 18 executive orders to open the border for them it was just that is where I just wish he would have hammered her home. But I don't think she won because, well, let me say this. She did win absolutely because it was on ABC and they did exactly what they wanted him to do was get caught up into what she threw out there, like the whole rally thing, knowing that he has to respond to her. He definitely did a good job by not talking about her color because y'all have to take into consideration media is not on his side. Outside of Fox News, if MSNBC, think about the View in the morning if he'd have talked about her so-called identity. He can't focus on policy. He's unhinged. Look at him. We here to debate. Like, yeah, he couldn't have asked her that question. The bottom line is that she's not gonna take another debate, period, whether she goes down 20 points, because there's a reason why she had to do it on ABC. It had to be under those specific rules. I'm sure she even chose that moderator, the chick that was from the NABJ. They wanted her just to appear to say that she debated. If she wouldn't do the Fox News one, if she wouldn't do another CNN one, then you know she's not going to take another debate. That's just not. She's not. She didn't even. Now, from what I've seen, she didn't answer a question. Like she
No,
didn't. And
she
when
didn't
she
answer any
did,
questions.
right. And when she did, she fouled up the question she answered because she's not like she doesn't even understand her policy. So the point that I'm making is she won because let's be honest, man. Like I hate to say this, but our electorate, especially the select few the few freedmen that has still stayed on that plantation, they just want to see Sister Girl. You know what I'm saying? Like I was flipping through YouTube because I was determined not to watch that shit. And it was this random gay dude, black dude watching it talking about something. Yeah, let's talk about immigration. And she was not the border czar. And I'm just like, this motherfucker. Like, what are y'all talking about? Like, you know how many times they call her the border czar before Trump called her that? At least 200 times on national media. Pick an outlet, any outlet, she was the border czar, right? And so she did win because she gave what the layman wanted. They just wanted Kamala. He won for the person that's actually looking for policy and explanation. He did come up short in some instances, and we know how he is. That's the ego in him. But he did win the debate. If we're talking about, it's like battle rap. They say, did you win on stage or did you win on the camera? He's going to win on camera when you go back and comb through it. Of course, she won. Listen, I was just going on Facebook looking at reactions, and all the Democratic shields kept saying concepts of a plan. That's all they could say. That's how I know. That's how I know he won. If you're gonna focus on her saying concepts of a plan of about him about I guess ending the Obamacare, then yo, like tell me something Kamala said. Nothing. All right, well, then he won. But obviously, ABC, and you got to think about it tomorrow, CBS, The View, MSNBC, CNN. I mean, she's going to win. You saw them lowering the bar for her all week. So I just wanted to add that for a second.
Indeed. Yeah, I mean, I thought that Donald Trump won the debate, right? But when you have to debate the person you're debating, it's like me being on Sarnetta. I got to debate Sarnetta and the people that I'm debating every single time. It just never fails, right? And that's what happens when you're on a platform, a biased platform. It is what it is. And Sarnetta will tell you, yeah, I'm biased. he said that on many of. He just said it the other day in a video, and it was something that she said. You know, when she was a prosecutor, she said something to the effect of, you know, I would call people and ask them if they were okay. Did you call Sheree Peoples and ask her if she was okay? Did you call Jamal Truelove and ask if they were, you know, if he was okay? Did you call the family of Matrice Richardson and ask if they were okay? See, on these types of points, and we know that Trump probably wouldn't be aware enough to know about those things because these are issues that affect us because we look at Kamala's record when it comes to us. But would it be effective in using an actual ad, right? If we were to draft up an ad and say, did you ask Sheree Peoples, did you ask Jamal Truelove, did you ask the family of Matrice Richardson,
I
etc.?
mean, obviously that was what the people wanted because that's the only client she ever had.
But see,
You
think
know,
about this. And this is the key. This is the first year in the history of presidential debates that when Biden, you didn't have a live crowd. And if you remember when CNN or Fox News used to do debates, remember used to do live polling during the debates? Remember used to actually see per question how people reacted? Remember they would do that, live polling, right?
I didn't even peep that though. Wait, Dre, hold on, bro. God,
Home
this was
court.
not in front of a
Home
live
court.
audience. I
Say it
didn't.
again.
This was not in front of a live audience.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you.
That's crazy. I'm just realizing that as you say it.
Listen, this is what I'm telling you. It's like this is why listen. I know I sound like a hellfire and brimstone, doom and gloom preacher. If that woman is elected, I don't know, y'all, because they're literally because how short term is our memory, our memories are, right? Because, like I said, I remember when I was still on the plantation and Obama was running against Mitt Romney in front of that live audience, right? You knew Obama lost just the way the audience was reacting and just the way you seen Obama reacted to the crowd, right? How Romney was on him 24/7. Also, like I said, CNN would do two things, right? Well, three things. Live polling per question. You know what else they'll do? They'll have a live audience, right? And you know what else they'll do? They'll have a correspondent in like a swing state asking 10 people, how did you feel the debate swaying your vote? Remember they would do that right after the debate, right? And so when you think about what the DNC did on this one, it was like, yo, we know she's not going to answer any questions because she didn't. We know she's incoherent. But all you got to they like I said, they lowered the bar for all the last week. So all you have to do is just show up, Kamala, and get him into his ego. That's why I am thankful he didn't play that black card, and I'm thankful he didn't do. He could have been a whole lot worse. But did he win the debate policy wise? Of course. It's just now we got to be honest. The same people that love Trump for his brashness and the arrogance of being a millionaire billionaire is the same people that hate him now, but ignore her arrogance and elitism while she just laughs in your face. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Bro, I just gotta say, this dude had me cracking up a couple of times. He was talking about people eating dogs and cats and stuff like that. And then the
Yep.
second time But he said, "What about the president now? You got a president now. He don't even know if he alive."
I wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That had me crying. And that, that's what Trump is good at, being performative during debates. And I
But
used
see,
to be
to the point of that, to the point Dre was making, and you were making about the not having an audience. If an audience was there, that audience would have been cracking up. They would have had to
Right.
mute the mics on the audience because you would have heard that audience, and that would have had influence. Like all of this stuff would have had influence. Go ahead, my bad. Now I ain't mean to cut you.
So Whitley Yates just posted this video, right? And Trump was saying that it was on the news. What's going on, brother Gerard? I see you in the building. Let me share this real quick. Let's play this. Let's play this brother right here.
That's what they're used to, bro. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them. Like, y'all get the Highway State Patrol down here. That's what they're used to, bro. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them. Like, y'all get the Highway State Patrol down here.
So, I mean, people are saying. Now, the bad part was that David Muir, I believe on 2 occasions, he directly fact-checked Trump. He never did that to Kamala. Never once did that to her. And he said, by the way, that report, they were saying that that's fake. It's so funny because trending in politics on X right now is they're eating dog. They're eating the dog. That is trending right now with 80.1 thousand tweets. So, I mean, like, I don't know.
And
We don't know.
yeah, and we don't know if that's a real cat. It looked like a real cat to me that they were cooking on the stove. They were charring the cat.
Well, and we could also say we don't know if that was something that was happening at
Here or there.
the
Yeah.
So we can be fair on that point, but we don't know. We don't know. Let's look at it.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. The people that came in, they're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame.
Now, we don't know.
What did you do? Why'd you kill the cat? Smile for me. Smile, what did you do? Go like this. Did you eat that cat? Did you eat it? No, why'd you kill it? Did you guys see all this?
No, we pulled up and she was just laying there with me.
Did you see her eating it?
Eating it.
She was eating it?
Yeah, she was.
You call the Humane Society, see if they'll come pick this cat up. It's deceased. What did you...
I'm just saying, was Trump right or was he wrong? I don't know, and we don't know.
I don't know what these images are like. We don't know if those images are like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. If somebody's hunting, if somebody picked up a goose that got hit by a car, but they just don't look right. It looks like a Key and Peele sketch or something. This is funny. But I'm gonna be honest. This can come back to haunt Trump. And if they fact check it and they say, well, this image is from outside of America or this image is from 10 years ago. But it's funny, right? It's one of those Trump
moments. That made me laugh tears. I ain't going to lie. Did you eat that cat? Like, yo. And then my man.
Let me see your teeth. I was wondering if there was going to be like some cat in there.
And that's why he has to. That's why they her whole debate prep was attack his ego. That's it. Get him unfiltered. That's all it was. That she didn't answer anything, and that's just the truth. Like, there's nothing about her that can like there's, like I said, if he stayed on like I said, I didn't see it, but I watched the in between clips. And if he, like I say, immigration alone ends the debate, like literally, from the bipartisan bill that was going to still allow 5,000 illegals in a day, plus flown in by 25,000. The fact that they're just giving away money. Yeah, like that debate prep was Kamala. Don't say much. Say what you have to say, but don't say much because she's not eloquent. You know, once she throw them hands in the air, that's it. You know, once them hands go up, there's gonna be some word salad being flipped with a toss of dressing with it, right? Like, you know, the whole magical
Jay,
cloud thing, and you know, like she's not a person that can express herself eloquently. She doesn't understand how to be concise or precise at the same time. And she, like I said, her bit from what I've seen, her biggest moment in the debate is when he talked about the dogs and cats, the way she looked at him. Think about that. That in itself is a viral clip. Don't forget how much money they put into Twitter and into TikTok, social media to make him look like a buffoon. So as soon as he says that, yo, they might even know. Yo, I guarantee there will be an ad in the next few days about him talking about dogs and cats and saying that this is your leader for president. I'm telling you, because that's how they're gonna play it.
do you think
I
it's her
would.
incompetence, or do you think it's her unwillingness to distance herself away from the Biden administration? Because
Abraham, if
she
you
didn't want to like throw him under the bus at all.
if Kamala Harris participated in a presidential spelling bee, she wouldn't get past the word Constitution. I'm just telling you, she's not an intellectual, bro. At this point, you have to be honest about Kamala. Do you understand how many clips of her speaking where she just goes non sequitur to the question? Find me a clip where she answers a question directly. I can't find one. Think about it. This is the same woman in front of the national media said, well, you didn't go to the border. I didn't go to Europe either. That's what she said, right?
A friend in need is a friend
Think
indeed.
about that.
I'll
And
let
she
you
looked
answer
at
that.
him for at least, what, a minute before she said it? So yo, she is not. This woman said, when they asked her about inflation, prices are high, and that means people are going to pay more because things cost more, and families are going to suffer. Right? That's like this is like, yo, like Naheem said, think about the interview, right? Where the only question that she answered directly was when she called when they told her Biden was gonna drop out. Think about that, Ibrahim. She said, "You might not want to know this, but I was cooking for my family. Was it bacon and pancakes? And I looked at Doug, and I got a call, and it was Biden saying it's your turn, and you're dropping out. And I looked at my nieces, and they were eating their bacon." It was just like, what? So you could answer that question, but you can't answer a simple question about why y'all signed 18 executive orders to open the border.
I think
Why?
this is responding to judicially affirmed question. I thought the question was, is the war going to end? Not if you wanted Ukraine to win. Kamala
No,
made it about
that was the question.
what?
If you do you want Ukraine to win this war? So it was a
Okay.
loaded question to see if Trump was going to be pro Putin. And I thought Trump
Because they asked Kamala what would she do to end the war, and she talked about arming Ukraine. And she just went on about that. And I remember writing something. Oh, okay. So they asked Trump. They kind of flipped it for Trump.
Roz wanted us to play this again. Let's play this one more time.
What did you do? Why'd you kill the cat? Smile for me. Smile at you. Go like this. Did you eat that cat? Did you eat it? No, why'd you kill it? Did you guys see all this?
No, we pulled up and she was just laying there with it.
Did you see her eating it?
Eating it.
She was eating it?
Yeah, she was.
You call the Humane Society to see if they'll come pick this cat up. It's deceased. What did you do?
Now I gotta know the source of this video, obviously, and because we're not gonna spread nobody's
You just sitting
propaganda
back like she got
over here,
itis.
but that's
Those,
still funny as
those was multiple videos with him grabbing the duck too.
No, the duck was just it wasn't a video, it was a still image.
Oh.
Yeah. So with that, it was that. Am I on? Can you see me?
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my bad. With that one,
Sharing.
was that? I mean, was that an immigrant?
And she looked like an immigrant.
They
She
saying
definitely
Haitian.
looked.
Okay. Because
So
I didn't hear her say anything in the clip. So
yeah, so
He had itis,
the
Josh.
word is she's American.
the itis. Oh my God. Oh, man.
She gave new meaning. Did you eat that cat?
But this is true, my brother Jabir. There is a video of this lady cooking rats rotisserie style on the busy Queen Street. I've seen that video. So is it far-fetched? I don't know. I would like to see more evidence, but it's something that has been trending for the past 2 days that they starting to snatch ducks right out of Lake Michigan.
And we did see the video of the migrants that was sleeping on the street that had got kicked out of the hotel, and they said they going back because they was promised more than what they was offered, and now they going back to their country. So I mean, it's an issue. I think this debate should have been centered around immigration, inflation, and it's not a domestic issue. It's a geopolitical issue, but it's a major issue, and that's the Israel policy.
Let's go back to this real quick, y'all. Real quick, because I'm looking at the date on this one, and this is August. This has a date of August 22nd. Let us go back to this video right here.
Is that the cat?
That's what they're used to, bro. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them. Like, y'all get the Highway State Patrol down here. That's what they're used to, bro. They're in
Springfield City Commission meeting, August 27, 2024. Now, we don't know. We can't confirm this. And this is something that I would like confirmation on. Is this true? Are immigrants snatching ducks up and eating duck? I don't know.
I mean, the humanitarian in me asks, is there anything wrong with that? I mean, it is bird, right? It is bird. When you go to a high-end
Puerto
restaurant,
Ricans,
they probably went to the restaurant. They seen the prices. They're like, what? $36? I can make something that tastes way better than what y'all serving.
You ever ordered duck?
Look, the Puerto Ricans was eating pigeons in New York. That's a fact. That is a fact. So maybe, they look at it like, hey, man, take some of these oranges we selling on the side of the road, stuff them in the duck with some potatoes. I don't know. I don't know.
You don't know what the Mexicans are selling you on the train, them chalupas. You don't know what's in them fried chalupas, man. You don't know what they're selling you. The thing about it, you have enough rats in them subways to feed all of New York City. So you don't know what they're selling you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a fact. So yeah, man, so I thought that Kamala's comment about her not focusing on the past was obviously a direct shot at us, I feel, because Van Jones laid it out as a political pundit for the Democratic Party when he said reparations for the past. No, he pretty much called that a party pooper statement. Anybody that believes that Kamala Harris is in support of what it is that we're doing or in support of our people, let me say, you're deluding yourselves. You are deluding yourself. I do want to test my call feature though while we on the air. So one of y'all want to mute out and call me real quick.
Yeah, can I say something real quick, brother Naheem? If you don't want to do reparations for the past, you don't get to bring up the Central Park Five. You don't get to bring up the Central Park Five and how Trump did them wrong and all that kind of stuff. If you don't want to talk about the past, you don't get to bring up Central Park Five. You don't get to bring up like past lawsuits that black folks had against Trump in his housing policy, or I guess there was the federal government that fined him or whatever. But if you're not actually going to support the reparations for the Central Park Five and the larger Freedmen group, who that's those type of crimes or injustices were against us for a long time, then you can't just take advantage of it when you're convenient. If you don't even support us getting justice for that.
I'll
But
go even
Josh,
further on that and
that's
say
the point,
it was
right? Isn't that the
extremely
point that
biased.
if Trump is not in the race, would the Central Park Five would be spoken about? That was pageantry, right? Then look, you know what I'm starting to realize? The Democratic Party treat black men like your parents when they dropped you off to school. If he act up, you tell me I'm gonna beat him. You don't beat him, I'm gonna beat him, and that's what it is, right? So we threw the Central Park in jail. For
President and
Trump,
I,
you had no
because of the
business.
Inflation Reduction Act.
You had no business putting that newspaper ad out. Those are my kids. I'm gonna beat them. That's how they treat us, right? Because if you think about their speeches at the DNC, Michelle Obama with that whole "ain't nobody gonna come knocking your door and see what you need to get," and telling you her parents raised her not to. They looked at people who took too much funny. This is the same woman that has 3 times the amount if you put 30 of us in a room, right? So I think they look at us in that manner. It's not about reparations. It's all about anything but Trump. So, okay, we got something that's going to embarrass him. Bring out the Negroes from the Central Park Five. And I think that's what it is. We beat our kids. You don't beat them. You can't even chastise them because anyone that has an understanding, the Central Park Five is a direct cause and effect of Biden and Clinton's crime bills, right? At that time in New York City, right? Wasn't the prosecutor a Democrat?
Yeah,
Wasn't
Feinstein.
everybody was a Democrat across the board?
Yes.
And so the whole thing was to be tough on crime, to compete against the Republicans anyway. So it's just like, if you think about that, Josh, it's literally like if Trump wasn't in the election, you wouldn't, the Central Park Five wouldn't even watch the DNC. Think about that. You know what I'm saying?
I think
Were y'all able to hear that when I clicked on that video?
we can hear it.
Oh, wow. All right, Dre, do me a favor real quick, bro. Can you mute your mic out and call my phone real quick?
Yeah, I'll do that. I'm gonna leave the stream. I gotta leave the stream.
Hold on. Don't do it then. I'll do it. But I'll just say this. That's the ABC DNC connection that gives Kamala Harris home court advantage. How do you ask somebody about putting the ad out in the paper? And you have somebody that's a career prosecutor. You have somebody that was the DA. You have somebody that was an AG. And you don't ask them about any of their mishandling of cases, right? About them using that lady who was running the crime lab who had a domestic case, and they had to overturn like thousands of cases because they let this lady just mishandle stuff, and she ended up getting found. She ended up stealing some cocaine out of the evidence and took it home and used it, and then her sister called the police on her and she got locked up for it, right? That was after her domestic. We don't talk about Jamal Truelove. We don't talk about Sheree Peoples. We don't talk about, I forget his name, but the man that they had on death row, right? Even though they had evidence and they was withholding it, that exonerated him. It's fair to bring that up against Trump, but then you have to bring up several cases that Kamala's office was under. That Kamala's office was over. It's like that's the biasness of having this like extreme home court advantage where you don't even bring it up. You bring this up over him. He's a private citizen. She's the VP. Okay, he was the president, but she's the vice president. She's currently the vice president. You have to bring that up. And that's the biasness, and it's all. And I'll say this. There's been a shift in the last week.
Wait, real quick, Ibrahim. Can you hear Dre?
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, we're gonna start taking.
You're
Is he echoing on your end?
No, it's 100% clear.
Yeah, I hear you.
63%.
Dre, can you hear me, Dre?
37%. Harris CNN instant poll on question.
Okay, so real quick, Dre can't really hear me.
That was just
Let's see. How I sound now, Dre?
You sound a little bit clearer, but you're not coming through my roadcaster. Hold on. Go ahead.
Yeah, 1 2 1 2.
I hear you a little bit.
Okay, so that's something we have to work on. My bad, Ibrahim. All right, I just wanted to test that out. I'm gonna hang
Well,
up.
no, I was gonna say because I'm looking at the time. It's getting late. It's about time
Yeah,
for me to
yeah.
put an episode of House of Cards in and go to sleep. But the point I'm making is that I've seen in the last week that little honeymoon media phase is starting to end as well. With TYT is starting to go back to they still pushing for Kamala Harris, and they still are pushing the narrative that anybody but Trump, right? We've seen Mark Cuban go on, I believe it was CSNBC, and say some of the same thing. But the point is, they're starting to go back towards the center, right, and be more objective when it comes to both candidates. I'm going to watch, like most of us are, how other people feel about what happened in the debate and see if they point out some of the glaring disparities that we pointed out and see if they pointed out some of the ways that Kamala Harris came up short and some of the ways that, we know they're going to point out all of Trump mishaps, right? But see if they're fair and point out a lot of the ways that Kamala Harris came up short. The fact that she, that Afghanistan question, that was not supposed to be a hard question for her. She failed. She was supposed to put that on Biden and just say he handled it wrong. You sit there and say, like, I backed him, I supported him, and we ended the war, and we stopped sending like $300 million a week over to Afghanistan. Man, you pulled out and left a black hole. People was hanging on to the plane. They died. We shipped a whole bunch of them over here. They didn't want to fight. I believe they had like 100,000 soldiers to 30,000 Taliban members. As soon as America stopped backing them, they said, we not going to fight. No, that was horrible. And then you get on Trump for having a meeting with the Taliban, but at the same time, you left millions of dollars of military equipment over there. And then I'm just her closing statement. I think we should get into the closing statement. Trump won on a closing statement, right? Kamala has to understand she's losing points because of what's going on with Israel and Palestine, right? The genocide that's happening. And for you to say that you're protecting U.S. militaries, making it the most lethal military, that's not a good, and that goes to what Dre was saying earlier. Sometimes if there's a shoe, Kamala is going to put her mouth around it, right? She keeps a foot in her mouth. She just says the dumbest stuff at the most inopportune time. So, just the closing statement, I thought Trump got a point on too. But I'm interested to see how the other media networks kind of judged this debate, whether they thought it had any validity at all, if it was just a shit show or what.
Yeah. So we're going to start winding this thing down, man. Josh, you got any closing statements? And then we're going to go to Dre and start shutting this thing down. Josh must have dozed off. Go ahead, Dre.
No. My bad.
Okay,
My volume was low. I didn't even hear that you were calling. It was entertaining. I say that. And I'm glad we got a chance to cover it and give commentary. We're going to keep doing what we do, but overall, it just seems like the narrative always is going to be like the issues that we care about. They just don't seem to they don't seem to get the attention that they need. And it's interesting that the number one issue that I'm sure most of us were interested in hearing debated was immigration, and that's also an issue that very many Americans are concerned about with this in this presidential um, cycle, right? And it's still not getting the coverage that it's supposed to get. So that's the thing that's alarming and troubling for me. I don't know how we get that conversation tabled properly. It seems like, obviously this is ABC. They're not going to do it. And I don't even know if Fox would do it. I don't know if I don't, I don't know. I think it's just a talking point, or do we actually want to get into the details and the nitty gritty of what's going on here and educating Americans about what's going on, so they are informed and get up in arms about the resources that government is giving away specific to that particular group, and um, how they're just being allowed to come in even when they're found to break federal law, which is entering as an unlawful or illegal alien. So, I mean, this is troubling for me. But is this really going to be an issue that we see resolved and talked about in the public, or is it going to just be a talking point to have people take a side on? Right? It shouldn't be that way. It should be like, let's do the right thing for the country. So I would hope that moving forward, if the Trump administration is serious about the issue, they show us instead of just allowing them to keep it the details of this obscure from the American public. So with that, I'm gonna say peace.
Indeed, indeed. Go ahead, brother Dre.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, your audio a little bit low.
Hold on 1 second. What about now?
It kind of sounds the same. It is.
That's crazy. Hold on 1 second.
It's good for me. What about you, Josh?
Hold on, let me see something.
All right, no, it's good.
Nah, you good, Dre?
I was good, right?
You good, bro.
All right. So my response to Josh with that, I agree with the whole immigration thing, but once again, ABC cannot press them really on the issue when they know Kamala is the reason for the immigration issue. That's number one. Number two, I think you're going to see tomorrow. You're going to see, and I think you're going to see tomorrow a new poll comes out now that Kamala's now in the lead again. And yo, they did what they were supposed to do. This is not happenstance that it was on the actual network that hates Trump. Um, this is not happenstance that once again she didn't answer any questions. She, like I said, where she got them at was the cats and the dogs talk. Sorry about that. My microphone's loud. Um, she I just think that I'm just scared as hell, y'all. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm scared as hell. I'm not even gonna flex. Like, because this, I never thought in my lifetime that I would experience what propaganda was on this level when it came to politics. The one thing I do know now, because of all of the things that Josh just said about the resources that's been given out, the fact that last year they said it was 7 million, if y'all remember, 7 to 11. Now they're telling you it's 20 million illegals, so that really probably means it's like 30 or 40. Where do you fit into that? If it's 30 plus million black folks in this country and we just let in 30 illegals, where do you fit? Like, isn't that called a wash? Like, and if she gets reelected, it's over. Like, I keep saying that. Like, this is the election that's the gift and the curse for the people that's freemen, because it's going to end blackness. Like, you don't have blackness to stand on any longer. Like, everyone can be black. Everyone is black. Kamala's black. Vivek is black, even though he never claimed to be black. Like everyone's black, so now you don't have that to lean on any longer, and you're just gonna be the bottom cast of this country because they're telling you. Nancy Pelosi told y'all on the show last week. Gavin Newsom told you this week. Chuck Schumer told you today. Yo, these are the future of this country. Biden was not the one thing, even in his cognitive decline that he said, is like, yo, this country is doomed, not just because of black people, but because you're going to have to work with the Hispanics, right? And that's what they did. They invested, they've created a new middle class. I'm starting to think that the economy that they claimed that was so robust over the last year and a half came through them investing in them so they can actually be purchasers and buyers of the market. Think about that. Because you always hear people on Twitter and everywhere else say, when I'm in the supermarket, they got carts full of food. When I'm at the car dealership, they're driving off the lot. So who's buying it? And where are they getting it from? Us, our taxpayer dollars. So I'll end with that. I don't think he lost any of his supporters. I just think that they gave you the optics that they wanted for Kamala to have in order to be, still in this race, which is scary to me. But that's all I'll say about it.
Indeed, indeed.
Hey,
Ibrahim, I
Naheem,
didn't know.
I'm just gonna end on this note. I think the major takeaway from this debate is if Kamala gets back in office and inflation keeps going up, we're gonna all be eating cats.
Well, we got a head start on you in New York City,
It
Ibrahim.
is.
We got a head start on you in New York, bro.
Braised duck. We will be eating braised duck, boy. You right about that. So I'm gonna end it by I want to play this video, and then I want to give my closing statement. So let me play this again.
This party behind her, but she's fixing some problems on the left. This whole thing has been an implicit critique of problems that we've had on the left. The left before we walked in here was about justice, diversity, trigger warnings, reparations for the past, and a bunch of party poopers and scolds. That was the knock on the left. We have gone from talking about justice, which is wonderful, but now it's about freedom. It's not just about diversity, it's about patriotism. It's not just about trigger warnings. In fact, that's gone. It's tough, tough, tough. Reparations for the past? No. Fight for the future. Party poopers? No. We legalize fun. We legalize fun. We put the party back in the Democratic Party. And so this is
So my closing remarks is centered on the sentiment of the Democratic Party and that statement by Van Jones and what Kamala said in her closing statement, that there will be no focusing on the past, that the focus is on the future. Many people, when I put that Van Jones video out on Twitter, they just tried to come at me and make it seem as if Van Jones doesn't speak for the party. Van Jones, no, he speaks for the party. He's a political pundit and he's a Democrat. He's a staunch Democrat. When he said during Trump's, I believe it was his first State of the Union speech, that in that moment Trump became president, I mean, they skewered that dude. They skewered him. And he's not, I don't think, had a moment like that since. Then I say that to say, while I believe Trump won the debate, who lost the debate? Meaning, who lost? Or the better question is, who loses? No reparations questions asked tonight. During the first run, that question was being asked. During the 2022 midterms, that question was being asked. We don't get that question this time because us as a people, we are not a priority to the Democratic Party. So anybody that's caping for Kamala Harris because of your dislike for Trump, and you're not looking at what's going on with our people nationwide, you are highly, highly disillusioned. You do not understand what's going on. We are the biggest losers. And if Kamala becomes the president, we will, we're going to just begin to fade away. There will be no policy prescriptions for our people. Now, I'm not saying that Trump is going to do those things. I'm not going to say that. But they have made it clear during their DNC convention that reparations is not an issue, that the issues of LGBTQ, of Israel, of Ukraine, of everybody else is more important than our issues. Now, we can take power into our own hands. We can absolutely do that. But for those of us that are in this political space right now, and you think that it is advantageous, to have a consistent beef with each other, knowing that we represent the last hope for our people in this country, then you also are complicit in what's going on right now. Those people that fought us on the Back South strategy, knowing that we were and are right and exact about it, that fight us on the freedman status, and they know for a fact that we are right and exact on this. And those people that fight us on everything, knowing that we are right and exact on, I don't want to hear anything from you about Kamala Harris. Those that see freedman status for what it is, I respect that, whether I rock with you or not. I respect that. Those of you who are trying to diss it and weaken it, which you never will, it's a ruling in the Supreme Court. Your voices on Twitter mean absolutely nothing. But for the rest of you who knows, who can see it for what it is, then we, for one, need to be moving forward collectively, because either way, we lose. And by some accounts, some people feel that we actually have a better chance under Trump. For those of you who are Kamala Harris fans and are going to vote for Kamala, because all of this stuff is happening under her. And like Ibrahim said, she never distanced herself from Biden during this debate. Not one time. Not one time did she distance herself from Biden. In fact, they do have a plan. She said it on the campaign trail to make a pathway for citizenship for all of the illegal aliens who are in this country. There will be no reparative justice. What did Van Jones say? Justice? No. Reparations for the past? No. They want to have fun. They want to party in the Democratic Party. And in that, they want to get a little tough. They want to be like the Republicans are in some instances. And they are now gaslighting and lying to our people in a way that we probably have never seen Democrats do in our lifetime. So I say that to say it's on us. It's on us, man. We can win this fight. We can win this fight. And I'm a strong believer in that. So y'all make sure that y'all tune in over the next couple days. We may do a follow-up stream tomorrow. We're trying to get, some people on, like the sister out of Chicago that goes into those Chicago City Council meetings and eviscerates that mayor over there and that Chicago City Council, especially those who support that mayor and the policies that they are implementing, which are helping immigrants and overlooking our people who have been there for generations. see if we can get her on, talk a little bit of Chicago politics. Chicago politics is a very, very unique thing because it is one of the last strongholds where quote unquote black politics or freedmen politics is actually being practiced. Atlanta is no longer majority freedmen. That happened 2 years ago. We reported that right here on Be the Power, maybe even 3 years ago. I'm not 100% sure. So I say that to say we can win this fight. There's direction. There's direction with the proper plans and the proper agenda, the proper research, the proper scholarship, the proper goals that we have for the American freedmen families across this country. And it is going to take political power. It is going to take our political engagement in order to win this fight. Now, we could remain separate and everybody walk their own path and think that we're going to do anything significant while each of these parties prepare to bypass us. And we don't know, right? Trump is making some promises. He's at least making some promises. Kamala will not make any promises to our people. And I don't believe she has directly stated that she will. We know the Democratic Party's playbook. We know it. We know it. So, I mean, it's on us. This is my appeal to pathos, my appeal to emotion for us to get on the same page finally. I mean, just real quick, being on Sarnetta's channel the past 2 weeks, I told them I'm going to rename. I was in the chat yesterday saying I'm going to rename this channel Simps for Kamala 2024. I can't believe what I'm hearing over there. I just can't. I was on there today barking on the dude Reggie that be on Sarnetta's channel. Just, you talking about, dude? Like, now all of a sudden we're the problem, and black men are the enemy, and that we are misogynist because Judge Joe Brown got up there and said he's a misogynist, right? So, and we're MAGA, and we're all of these different things that they care to label us because we won't support their candidate. And we won't support their candidate because their candidate doesn't support us. Their candidate does not have a history of supporting us. And we can prove that. And we've proven that here on this platform going all the way back to 2020. We have the videos. We can pull them up. So honest for everybody that tuned in tonight for the theatrics of the presidential debate. It's kind of underwhelming. It went exactly the way I thought it was going to go. ABC tossing Kamala some softball questions, pressing her on an issue. I thought they at least would have pressed her. And one thing I could say about CNN, if Jake Tapper is moderating, you're going to get some more direct questions that Kamala has to answer. I don't believe that Jake Tapper would be one of those moderators, unlike Adana Bash, that would just ask a bunch of softball questions. But that network is still left-leaning, and they obviously are against Trump as well. I highly doubt that Kamala is going to do a Fox News moderated debate. I doubt it. I doubt it. So in the end, Kamala gets elected. Boy, oh boy, we better forget duck. You better start looking at the price of tents because they're just bringing them over here and we are being replaced. Replace and erasure, that's Josh's term, is definitely happening. So I'll leave you all with the motto of the platform, and that is, don't just fight the power, become the power. And then and only then will you have the power to make a change. And with that, I say peace.